Ghosh versus Superior Court, appeal number A100924. Ghosh on March 12, 2002, filed in the Superior Court a petition for right of mandate seeking to set aside a city resolution declaring his property a public nuisance. The Superior Court entered judgment in favor of the city on August 20, 2002. Ghosh appealed. He filed both a petition for right of mandate and an appeal. On appeal, he argued that there was no substantial evidence in the record to support the zoning board's finding, nor did the findings set forth between the finding, the evidence, and the board's action. The Court of Appeal affirmed the judgment on December 18, 2003, page 241 of scan of file. The petition for rehearing sets out in more detail the flaws in the appellate court's opinion. The appellate court said there was substantial evidence to support the judgment, but was not specific as to what the evidence was as opposed to the findings or statements by the board. For example, the opinion says a staff report says that the actual construction exceeded the scope of work authorized in the building permits, but gives no explanation how or what evidence supported the findings. Slip on page 5. The opinion merely did what the board did, recite findings without any reference to the evidence that supported the findings. What would a reasonable court do to analyze whether there was evidence to support the city's findings? A reasonable court would look for evidence. The court might say, well, we know the city council in its findings, number 6, concluded that the plans in question did not show any approval of an attic level or third floor. The court would go on to say to itself that if there are some plans that show the attic or third floor level and they're not marked approved, then the city council was right. Maybe the plans would even say disapproved. It's logical to reason from plans for an attic that are not marked approved to the conclusion that attic was in fact never approved. If a court actually read the administrative record, the court would have come across page 428 of the administrative record. A plan showing first floor, second floor, and attic covered by back roof. The court might have said, here it is. But when the court looked at the plans, it would have said, wait a minute. The plan do show the attic space was approved. 1, there's a stamp right here marked approved, dated January 23rd, 1998. There's no possible analytic route from these approved plans to the conclusion that the attic was not approved. The court would have to conclude that the city's findings is not supported by the evidence. But the appellate court here did not do that. It just recited the conclusions of the agency without looking for evidence that supported the conclusions. As another example, the boards found that Ghosh had changed the rear yard setback, but the record does not contain any evidence to show what the setback was at any time, let alone show that Dr. Ghosh changed it. And so on, the city argued for the first time on appeal in a single sentence that the staff reports were expert testimony that supported the judgment, and in his reply brief, Ghosh pointed out why they did not qualify, and such an example, the reports merely consisted of an action item to be placed on the board's agenda. But the appellate court said Ghosh raised the issue in his reply brief, so it was waived. Slip on page 7. But Ghosh did not raise this issue at all. The city did, and they did it for the first time in the Court of Appeal. Waiver, or forfeiture, as it's sometimes called, is an affirmative defense called confession and avoidance at common law. That must be raised and proved by the respondent. Ghosh's argument was rebuttal to a new argument by the city because the city did not raise the issue at the administrative level. It is the city who waived the issue. The appellate court also said Ghosh did not provide a reporter's transcript. of the bearings before the trial court. So he was barred from challenging the evidence to support the trial court's rulings. Slip on page 7. The opinion cites a case, Aguilar versus Avis Rent-A-Car System Incorporated, 1999, 21 Cal 4th 121 132, where an issue was what word someone used, and there was no reporter's transcript to show what word the person told the jury he had used. But here, no evidence was taken in the trial court. There was no evidentiary hearings before the trial court, nor could have there been, because this is an administrative review case, which can only be decided on the administrative record itself. Thus, the Court of Appeals opinion 1 did not address the lack of evidence by the city and instead merely repeated findings. Conclusion that Ghosh was in violation of his authorization. 2 ignored that the city had failed to raise an issue at the administrative level, and when Ghosh said the 3 city argument was wrong, said Ghosh should have raised it, presumably raised his rebuttal to an argument the city had not made at the administrative level. And 3 assumed that something the attorney said at a hearing in the Superior Court might have been evidence. Courts of appeal are supposed to follow the law as established by the California Supreme Court. And the California Supreme Court says in a case like this that an appellate court must follow the analytic route. The administrative agency traveled from the evidence to action. Topanga assassin for a scenic community versus County of Los Angeles, 1974, 11 Cal 3D 506 515. The appellate court did not take any route at all or analyze any evidence. It merely repeated findings and did not even mention the Topanga decision. There was no analytic route. The administrative agency traveled from evidence to action. That the Topanga case says the reviewing court must take because there was no evidence for the court to use as a starting point.